Welcome to What's Up With That, a podcast too. The podcast where we explore the intriguing intersections of theology, politics, and religion, and just what's going on in the church. From deep theological discussions to the latest political debates, we dive into a variety of topics that spark curiosity and challenge conventional thinking. Whether you're a seasoned believer or just God curious, our conversations aim to inspire reflection and provoke questions. Join us as we seek to understand the complexities of faith in today's world and ask, what's up with that? Our guest for the evening is no stranger to what's up with that. He is Dr. Eric McDaniel, professor of the Department of Government at the University of Texas in Austin, specializing in Black politics, religion, and politics with an interest in health policy. If you like this podcast, if you like this episode, we ask that you would please like, share, and subscribe. Again, if you like this podcast, we ask that you would please like, share, and subscribe. Now, for our special guest and for an exciting evening, let's get started. How you doing, Doc?
Doing well.
You know, we are glad to have you, and I always like this, get to usher you to your seat, man.
Thank you, sir.
This is where you're going to be sitting. Don't worry about that, I got it. I got it. Glad to have you here again, sir.
Glad to be here.
Yes. Been too long.
Yes.
Been too long. We were talking, you are apparently the man about Austin these days. Every time I turn on the TV, Doc, I see you.
I guess I can't find anybody better, but
No, Doc, I like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when I see you and I hear what you're talking about, my mind goes chick, podcast episode. So I am delighted that you are here and get excited every time that I see you on the boob tube when I turn it on. Yeah. So glad that you are here. On this evening, we've had conversations about, actually, the last time I saw you on TV, we had talked about getting you back on the podcast. Mm-hmm. Looking at, in your area in terms of government and politics, what's a topic that we can discuss, that we need to talk about, and that's relevant in society, and in particular, I like to say what's also relevant within the Black community.
Yes.
And lo and behold, I turned on the TV, that was maybe about 3 or 4 days or 5 days after talking to you, and we were going to reconnect. And I didn't wait that 3, 4, or 5 days. I think I texted you and said, hey, I saw you today. Let's talk about DEI. Yeah. DEI has been in the news lately. Yes. For actually the past few years. DEI has been a buzzword. It has been used and referenced in the workplace. That's government, that's state, that's city, and even private agencies have embraced DEI. Higher education has also embraced DEI. And within these systems, I know on in higher education, on university college campuses, there are, there have been DEI departments.
Yes.
Within workforce, there were departments, and if there were not quote unquote departments, through human resources,
yes,
they often brought in folk who engaged DEI to try to make for a better work atmosphere. Certainly, it's just happened recently. And I mean, this has been going on for a season now, a big thing. And all of a sudden, with the election of this 47th president, 45th and 47th president, we no longer have DEI programming. And the concern, the question is, I believe it's affecting thousands of Americans. And of course, that will be part of our conversation this evening. I'd like to just sort of start with, can you tell us just what is DEI and give us a little history behind that?
So the way I've always understood DEI is that it is set up in such a way that you understand the workforce as being diverse, as instead of just being one person, one type of person, you understand that there's talent in a large number of individuals, and that you provide a workplace where they all feel included. And while we focus on the race part of DEI, there's a class part, there's a gender part, disability part, sexuality part, even a religious part to it. And it's the idea of having a liberal society where, and when I say liberal, I mean liberal, small L liberal, like one where people are accepted for who they are and that there's an openness to individuals. So you can think of it being much more cosmopolitan. That might be another way to think about it. And also with DEI programs, one of the things was to quit making white men the default setting for authority, for anything that dealt with a high level of intelligence, understanding that intelligence comes in a lot of different colors. It's not just male, it's also female.
Right.
And how can we find ways that people understand that just because you're not a white male, that does not mean you're not qualified.
Right.
DEI was never about putting unqualified people in positions. It was about looking for people who are qualified in places you normally didn't look, and being more open to the pool of talent that is out there.
Okay. And the notion of DEI is not new, right? And I think, and it goes even beyond, was watching, I don't know, one of my favorites is the 9 o'clock hour with Abby Phillips, all right? I believe she had a guest on, and as they were having a discussion, and they talked about the history and talked about how long it's been around, they went to the 1960s with the Civil Rights Movement. I don't know if Wikipedia is the end-all be-all, but in going to Wikipedia, it took it back all the way to it took it back a long way. And particularly back towards the First World War, that initially was applied towards veterans. To get them fair employment, equitable employment. I think they even had there's certain areas. DEI is a big umbrella. Is that right? And so they're the breakouts. Now they talked about DEI. It was forget the act, but it dealt with the blind, and I think disabled, right? And even to where it developed agencies because they began to make products, and government actually bought their products, right? So there was some benefit there for a lot of other people long before we began to talk about the initial affirmative action piece. Right? Doing away with affirmative action, but keeping it under DEI because it seemed to have been the new buzz. I'm not saying a word, but the buzz letters.
The thing about affirmative action is that it wasn't just about race. The thing about DEI is that it's not just about race, but it's the race thing that gets everybody worked up. And what I tell when I hear people criticizing DEI, I remind them there wasn't no DEI on the Titanic. Even the iceberg was white. So when something goes wrong, it ain't DEI. And that has really bothered me. And so, for instance, they'll talk about pilots. So I have a cousin who's a pilot, served in the Air Force for several decades. He was, got to the rank of colonel. He was part of the team that made sure everything was set up properly for Air Force One. So he was certified in his position.
Right.
He's now an airline pilot, and people are looking at him like, did he really earn his spot? There's the situation where you had the member of the Texas legislature tearing into the black woman about DI, basically questioning, like, do you even belong here?
Right.
And she was like, after several decades of doing this, I still got to answer this question. Yeah. That is the problem with this. The DEI, nobody has proven that DEI has led to unqualified people in positions. Right. In fact, there's probably better evidence that a lack of DEI has put unqualified people into positions. So think about baseball. When all of a sudden you got DEI in baseball, you realize there are a bunch of people there that shouldn't have been there.
Okay.
And once you started integrating, a lot of people, they were just on the edge. They got the job, but now the job was taken. And the DEI problem really stems from, I think, a general sense of angst on the part of certain people who believe their spot is being taken away from them. 8 years of a black president, I think, really bothered them. And I'm of the firm belief that for some of these white supremacists, and even people who don't think of themselves as white supremacists but have those tendencies, a black person being faster or stronger than you can live with that because that means they're a beast. They're a savage. But being smarter than you, you can't deal with that.
Wow.
So we talk about, people talk about, black people are sneaky and they lie. This and that. Sometimes that just means they're smarter than you.
Yeah. I want to bring that back because we had Brother Goodwin, Dr. Goodwin here a few weeks ago, as I sort of labored and looked at some stuff. What popped out at me was, are we also engaging in some ways with respectability politics? Before we get there, can we just break up that word DEI a little bit more? The D is for diversity.
Yeah.
The E is for
equity.
And there's a challenge there, right? Because at one point, I prefer equity to equality. And there's a difference, is there not?
Yes.
What's that difference between equity and equality?
So equality means just give everybody the same thing. Equity means that you recognize some people might need a little bit more to be on the same level. Okay. And so if the fence is 10 feet tall and you give everybody a 4-foot ladder, well, the person who's 7 foot, all right, they're good. The person, who's 6 foot might be good. The person who's 5 foot is struggling.
Yeah.
So they all got the same thing. Equity means that, if you're 7 foot, you only need 3 feet. So let's move this over here. And so that's what that's about. Okay. It's about how do we make sure this is a level playing ground. And equity is difficult, just like equality is difficult. So when we mean equality, do we mean equality of chance? Do we mean equality of outcome? There's this big fight over there, or equality of opportunity. And equity is difficult. Okay.
So, but and part of my question is it really? I think separate but equal. Right. Separate but equal also sometimes meant that, okay, let's bring it to the computer age, meant that all schools should have computers. But what we're going to do is that we're going to give the kids on west side of Austin, every one of them will have new computers, working, good internet service. Don't have to worry about a breakdown. But on the east side, we're going to give you our leftovers.
Yeah.
everybody has computers.
Yeah.
But it's not equitable because your computers, you don't have to worry about them breaking down. It's easy access. It's fast. It just works. Here, I'm still left behind because next week I may not have none.
Yeah.
Because we worried about getting them fixed.
Yeah.
Because they've been so used. You gave me that's equal, but that's not equitable either.
No, equitable would.
So is it that hard to get? If I'm gonna give, if I'm gonna give my child a new computer, and I'm going to help your child, is it not? If we really want to be equitable, then I need to give your child who is trying to succeed too the same computer.
Same computer, but then also recognize that some people don't necessarily have the natural computer background. So on the West Side, if their parents have computers, if there's something they use all the time, but on the East Side, they don't. Well, the kids on the East Side are probably going to need a little bit more help. Like, okay, here's how you use it. Here are the programs. Okay. So equity would be, okay, let's invest a little bit more over here because we want to make sure they're caught up with this group over here.
So then it's not only about the computers, it's also about the training that's going to be needed to bring them up to par.
Proper investment. And
okay, that's fair.
And again, it goes back to realizing that there is talent in places you didn't normally look. And one of the things like a lot of schools will talk about how they want to have more diverse student body, but they can't find anybody.
Okay.
Well, one, they're not looking that hard. But two, what ends up happening is a lot of times when these colleges say that, they will see kids who have potential, but then they kind of get lost in between junior high and high school.
Right.
And because that's when a lot of things change for people. And that's when the instability of the world becomes has a larger impact on it.
Okay.
And so because of that, they're like, well, there's nobody out there. Like, what? No, they were there, but they've been put in these situations. They're going to these schools that are set up more like prisons than schools. And because of this, these problems are going on. And another way to think about equity was when the vaccines came out.
Okay.
Dallas was like, I think there are certain kinds of, we want to give to the Black community first because they're the ones being harmed the most. And the state said no.
Okay.
But we wouldn't give them out equally. But if my house is on fire and your grass is on fire, well, yeah, there are two fires going on. But one is my house, one is your grass.
Right.
So let's put the fire in my house out, and then we'll worry about the fire with your grass.
Okay.
But it goes back to all lives matter.
Okay.
It goes back to acting as if everything's a meritocracy. Race isn't that important. Race doesn't shape people's lives. And if race wasn't that important, why do you get so upset when you see Black success?
Okay. So then when we look at diversity, that's trying to bring in a variety of people, ethnicities, that's race, gender, females, that's sexual orientation, that's all of those things that make for differences, but that has value as we all come together.
Yeah, it's recognizing that intelligence and value does not come in one.
Okay.
Another way to think about diversity is the Band-Aid.
Okay.
So the flesh-colored Band-Aid is always white flesh. So why is that the default?
Because it's going to be awfully bright on me.
Yeah. So it's going to stick out on. Yeah, it's going to stick out on us. So that's not flesh-colored. And so now let's come out with, or we can think about Barbie. Why does Barbie always have to be white? We have the fights right now over superheroes. We're seeing a lot more Black or female superheroes. And a failure to recognize that the reason why they were all white men when it started off is because of a high amount of racism and sexism. Yeah. So we want to continue that?
Yeah, well, if you look at what, who was that? It was one the other night. I don't know if it was it DOJ? Somewhere where they want to make America great again. And all of the publicity that they have are pictures of these white men.
Yeah.
How far have we come? So we want to diversify that. Equity is being sure that things are not necessarily equal but equitable.
Yeah.
And equitable says that we have the same opportunity. Equal does not mean that we're going to be given the same opportunity necessarily.
Yeah. So equity in many ways is about making sure everybody has the same chance to succeed.
Opportunity.
Yeah, it's the same opportunity to succeed. So if you have a kid who's coming out of, Oak Cliff,
Okay.
but it's clearly demonstrated a high level of intelligence, can pick up on things. And another kid coming out of Westlake was demonstrated that. But one of the things you know about the kid in Westlake is that they've been given a lot of resources. And so there are minor details that they're aware of that the kid in Oak Cliff may not be. So what you want to do is make sure the kid from Oak Cliff, hey, here devil's in the details. Here are some little things just to keep you. So all of a sudden when they're in the classroom, they are not, one person's like, oh yeah, I've already heard these terms before. And the other person's like, I have no idea what's going on.
Okay.
And so that's part of it. And also the problem with the DEI argument is that the DEI argument in many ways is an ego boost to mediocre people. That mediocre people are like, well, he got that because of DEI. No, he got that because he was better than you.
Okay.
You're mediocre.
Okay. What's the I?
Inclusion. And inclusion is important because you say diversity, we want different people. Equity, okay, we want to make sure they can all succeed. But inclusion is we need to make sure that we accept them as a part of the team, that they are a part of the family. And so inclusion is about, hey, don't make these sexist jokes, don't make these racist jokes. Understand these individuals are part of our team, okay, and that they work with us. And the military had a lot of work to do.
Okay.
But when the military was desegregated, they had a lot of work to do in order to get these individuals, black and white men, to come together. And so part of it was they went through the same training, but then now you've got black officers and what happens, and how people respond. And the military was really a good example of DEI, of a variety of people coming together. Okay. And now they're pushing as many black men out as they can. And part of it is, with the military, you think of the military is the ultimate example of white masculinity. Okay. And you can't have black men and black women being that. You might have one or two here and there, but you cannot sit in a room full of colonels and generals with a lot of black faces, because that is a sign of authority.
Okay.
And one of the things about inclusion is that you accept a black man in authority, that you understand that a woman can have authority
as well. And
they couldn't do that.
And they ought to be comfortable in that place.
Yes.
They ought to be able to, they need to be made to feel as though they belong there.
Yes.
And they are a part of that environment.
Yes.
Right? And that becomes important, especially in that inclusion piece.
Yeah, because you'll see people drop out of school, you'll see people quit because of the atmosphere.
Yeah. DEI, and for most of us, since it is a term not new, because there has been under DEI was affirmative action. So basically they got rid of one term, but they replaced it with almost another. DEI has been around a while.
Yeah. DEI predates affirmative action, right. And
Has DEI really benefited people of color, and specifically black people, in reality?
So you can just make the same argument. People made the same argument with affirmative action. The problem, I would say, with DEI, and this is a problem, I would say, with the civil rights movement in general. Haynes Walton, political scientist, has a book titled "When the Marching Stopped," and within that book, he talks about the civil rights movement and the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, that the government took over civil rights. So that meant it was now in the hands of the bureaucracy.
So when you say government took over civil rights.
Yeah. So it was no longer in the hands of black people, it was now in the hands of
Okay.
the government.
Okay.
And so now black people had to fight with people who were just opposed to civil rights for whatever reason, because they were just white supremacists, or then people who were opposed to it because it may have messed up a certain interest they have here and there. So they had to fight this bureaucratic system where they no longer had control over this issue. And I think something like DEI was a good idea, but once corporations took over, it got a little bit, it lost its true purpose.
So what was the true purpose, and how was it managed before it got in the hands of bureaucracy,
Yeah.
white establishment? Before it got there, how was it managed? What made it good and what made it work before that time?
So I think a great example of this would be IBM.
Okay.
IBM had a lot of black employees. So wherever you have IBM, you're going to see a lot of black people.
Okay.
And so you're going to see a lot of college educated, black people. And I think they were able to they recruited, they said, no, there's talent here. So let's recruit this talent. But I think what happened is diversity became hip. So it became an advertising tool.
So it became part of the thing to do.
Yeah. And that means it always goes bad. So I was talking to a white woman who was a grad student, and she was wondering, well, they want me to give a DEI statement or something like that when I apply. And my fear is they're just going to use me as a mascot. And I was said, yeah, don't do it.
This is a white woman?
Yeah, it's a white woman.
Okay.
Because she's like, look, I come from a impoverished background. I'm first generation,
Okay.
and I feel like I'm going to be used as a mascot. And I was like, yeah, I understand that. My department, we have an award from the Committee for the Status of Blacks in the Profession for the American Political Science Association. Because at one point in time, we had 6 black faculty in the department. That was all by accident.
And this is where?
This is here at UT.
Okay.
So in 2004, we had 6 black faculty. By 2007, I think we're down to 4. And by, I would say probably by about 2010, or maybe a little bit after that, really down to really just 2. They may have been on the road,
So
but they were.
It went in reverse. It's decreased instead of increased.
Yeah, and now we're just down to 2, and so the reason why we're down to 2 is because we used to be married to each other. So it's this weird dynamic of we get this award, hey, we're diverse, look at us, but there's nothing done afterwards.
Okay.
And be true, if the department really wanted to do something, was really committed to that, they would have institutionalized it in some way. There would have been a center, or there would have been something going on. I mean, we have things now, but 20 years ago, I think it was just a happy coincidence.
Okay.
But no real commitment to it.
Okay. And that's the piece that I also, no commitment, because even there sometimes, and reminded, have a student who graduated a few years back, was hired to head DEI department at one of the universities in Maryland, no longer there, wrote an article and talked about the real commitment versus maybe doing that which looks good,
It's performative.
gives you a little notoriety because you are in the midst of doing this already, and but then no real commitment
Yeah.
to really making a difference.
Yeah, it's performative. It's virtue signaling. It's the people who will show up to the march, but then won't show up to the polls. The people who show up to the photo shoot, but won't show up to do the actual work.
Okay.
And then another thing that messed up DEI is you got a set of people who started doing DEI training who had no business doing DEI training.
Okay.
And I firmly believe you had a group of white people who consider themselves to be very liberal, or a group of people, not just white people, but just a group of people who consider them to be very liberal, but were still very uncomfortable being around black people. And they decided that the way they were going to deal with their angst is to make other white people feel guilty and bad. So they come in with this training of like, well, I'm gonna make you feel horrible. You're gonna feel horrible after you leave this. And well,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So they worked through, they were able to overcome their angst by trying to shame other white people. Now, these same people who talk about all this diversity and inclusion, they may have one or two black friends, they'll talk about it and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, they still clutch their purse when they see a black person walk by.
Okay, so a good program. There have been some companies who've touted that they're in a better place. Work environment is better. Others, like the young man that I'm talking about, who says that there was no real commitment. The work was there to be done. Am I hearing you say that some of the bad rep that DEI has is not necessarily because of black folk or persons of color, but it's the white folk who didn't really know how to do it, who were, quote unquote, not qualified for the job. And it wasn't black folks shaming white folk, it was white folks shaming white folk.
Yeah, and that's the problem. This is one of the major problems I see with DEI is that you had a push from a segment of the liberal community for DEI, but they themselves were not committed to it. And one of the things I keep thinking about is you have a large number of white liberals who will refuse to put themselves in a predominantly black or black controlled space.
Okay.
They may show up real quick with some photos, but to actually be in that space, they're unwilling to do it. And this is why something like DEI fails.
Okay. Because they're there, but they're not willing to do the work.
No, they are there because they know it looks good. It makes them feel like, oh, I'm a good person today, you know. But in reality, they aren't. So, like, I think about something somebody was telling me when they were in seminary, and they said, yeah, well, I got a group, and we're going to go over to the black community, and we're going to clean up, and we're going to do this, because we're going to help out the black community do that. Well, did they ask you to do that? Well, no. Well, ask them what they want. Well, no, we know what's, no. And that's the problem. It's still dictating it to them. I had a friend of mine whose son, black son, the teacher accused him of calling another black student a monkey. It's like, well, I don't put up with any racism, blah, blah, blah. And so she's lecturing a black kid about not being racist, but fails to recognize that they're watching something and there was a monkey on the TV, on the movie, and the kid just yelled, "Hey, a monkey!" And so she's like, "Oh, you." So they do silly things like that.
Okay.
And but then have the gall to lecture the black parent on racism, and it's not.
Doesn't click.
Yeah, it doesn't click at all.
Is that? And let's go ahead and go there. A wonderful conversation. Alexander Goodwin.
Yes.
Respectability politics, right? Is this a form of that, right? When you talk about respectability politics, initially it was great. Initially, it was a benefit to them, and it was respectable in their size because it was something for them to gain, even profit from. With a Donald Trump who comes in who is outright racist, and all of his cronies as well, right? And all of a sudden now, with the upward mobility of people of color, of black folk, maybe too many, right? I.e., the black women he's targeted. So now it's no longer respectable. We have the power. It's time to change the game. That now we need to put some people back in their place, retake some control. So let's switch the game up. And that's part of respectability politics. So now I'm going to take that from you.
I think it speaks to the failure of respectability politics, because the fact that you're a black person who's gotten moved up a high level of the government,
Okay.
you should be respected. That means you've been doing things the right way.
Okay.
But as we saw with the woman who testified, they'll question your existence from the beginning. And I think about a place like DC. And this is what I really loved about going to DC. DC is a black city, and it's run by black people, and black people are proud of it. Black people are proud to show you around DC.
Okay.
They are glad that you're in their city so they can show you, look at what we've done. And if we look at the federal government, disproportionately, a number of black people are working for the federal government. I think in the state of Texas, close to a quarter of the federal workers in the state of Texas are black. That when you go and you deal with the government, a lot of times, especially, and even when you're dealing with, rank and file bureaucrats, even up, you see a lot of black faces.
Okay.
And they're making decisions. But what Trump is doing is nothing new. Woodrow Wilson, when he became president, fired all black men who may have had a position that would have required them to have a white secretary, or they would have had a white secretary. This is nothing new. That one of the things I don't think people were prepared for is that whenever you see black advancement, there comes extreme retrenchment. So the civil rights movement ends. Who gets elected? Ronald Reagan, who kicks off his campaign. Now, he's the governor of California.
Mm-hmm.
He kicks off his campaign in Philadelphia, Mississippi, talking about states' rights.
Okay.
That wasn't a dog whistle. Mm-hmm. That was a foghorn.
Okay.
You knew exactly where he stood. And his discussion of the big bucks and then the welfare queens,
mm-hmm.
Everybody knew where Reagan stood on that. If you look at Reconstruction,
okay,
look at the swiftness that Jim Crow came in, the creation of the Klan, that black success is viewed as white failure. And what DEI, if it worked effectively, would see black success as everybody's success.
Yeah.
But it's viewed as white failure. And having a black man in the White House for 8 years who I don't think anybody could really question his intelligence.
His intelligence, his integrity,
Yeah, they couldn't.
his character.
Yeah, so they couldn't. They couldn't question his intelligence. And you think about early on, he was referred to as uppity. And I do think that when a person that you think is subordinate to you establishes that they're not, you get bothered by it. So men get bothered by it with women. You can think about some adults when children do it. You can think about just a variety of ways. If you think you're superior to somebody, and all of a sudden you realize you're not. Mm-hmm. And it speaks to the fragility of white supremacy, of being the oppressor. Mm-hmm. And one thing I think is really important, and people have talked about this. King has talked about this. Baldwin has talked about this. So many people have talked about this. The oppressed are trapped, but so is the oppressor.
Okay.
Because the oppressor has to maintain things in a certain way in order to justify that and maintain it. Furthermore, the oppressor is constantly worrying about losing power. And so there's a reason why the slave owner sleeps with a gun under his pillow.
Yeah, because there's also fear, right?
Yeah.
If real freedom ever comes, will then that turn, right?
Yeah.
Power fear, will the oppressed now become the oppressor?
Yeah.
And somewhere, that's a true fear, I think, for a white counterpart.
Yeah, it's when are they going to get the get back? And that's always been there. Mm-hmm. And I think one part of Black respectability politics is being really forgiving. And said, okay, no, we're not gonna treat you like you treated us.
Is it a matter of being forgiven, or is it? It seems to me that as you look at respectability politics, look at the way things have been, look at who yields the power. Mm-hmm. We may be able to get the voice, right? Mm-hmm. But the power is still going to, the major power is going to still align with those who have economic power.
Yeah.
Right? That can outweigh your voice.
Oh, very much so.
Right? So if indeed that's where the real power lies, and if indeed in respectability politics, when the advancement seems too great, the game plan is switched on you. Mm-hmm. Is that forgiveness, or is that I've got to continue to play the game?
So I think some of it is I got to continue to play the game, and you still got to not be seen as a threat, and so you have to be willing to forgive and show that you're not a threat, because there's always worry in the back of Black people's minds, like, look, they're still going to see me as a threat, and the fact that you're doing it, you still acknowledge power. Now, I'm not saying Black people need to go on a war path or anything like that, but I do think they can sometimes be a little too quick to forgive and not really get the repentance that they need.
That is sincere and earnest, and is transforming.
Yeah.
That says, I'm willing now to make things right.
Yes.
I hear what you've said. I'm not saying we should go on the war path. I do believe, growing up in the 60s, 70s, right, that King was effective. Mm-hmm. Because there was a Stokely Carmichael and Angela Davis. I don't believe that King by himself would have been as effective if there had not been a threat
Yeah.
of an Angela Davis, a Stokely Carmichael, a H. Rap Brown,
Yeah,
all
Malcolm
those folks,
X,
right?
others, yeah.
Now, yeah. So at some point, when DEI stops working, when affirmative action stops working, and it's not because we're not doing what we need to do. It's because we're doing it and we're doing it well and we're advancing. And all of a sudden, when they see the advancement, the game changes.
Yeah.
At some point, do we say, by any means necessary, and that's godly? And I would tie that into a Black liberation theology, right? That God is a God of the oppressed, and He came to free us so that we would not be oppressed. And anything that would oppress us, we need to stand up for, because that's not of God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And
So
that was,
at
I mean, that
some
was
point-
King's argument as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So at some point, by any means necessary, and we'll go back to the Nat Turners.
Yeah. I will say one thing, and this is something I've been thinking about. I'm talking to other people about when we're thinking about like what's going on with men today, is that we did a lot of things to prepare women to enter this world and engage this world and to take on these new roles.
Okay.
But what did we do to prepare men? And we reward women for taking on the roles that men may have taken over. But then we punish men for taking over, for doing things that women may have done. And on top of that, in some cases, we still have the same expectations from men. Well, the man needs to provide more. But if y'all have the same job, well, and I think there is something of not preparing men for this new world, and just not preparing each other for this new world, of allowing men to take on roles they haven't taken on, like becoming an elementary school teacher, not middle school and high school where you just straight out authoritarian, but an elementary school teacher where you're a little more compassionate, being a nurse. The idea that you're being there, and so these are things that we said, these are feminine,
Yeah,
and they get punished for it.
That's not a manly thing, and that's not what a man does.
Yeah. And so, but if we're talking about
So
gender,
you're saying that's not true, that men need to be the example. Is that? I mean, what am I hearing?
so gender equality means that if women can do things that men used to do, then men can do things women used to do. And so, like, we should not be a stay-at-home dad should not be looked down upon.
Okay.
Man in nursing, a man teaching elementary school. These things should not be looked down upon. But we're like, well, that's a woman's thing. And men are shamed. Like I said, the oppressor is trapped. So think about getting breast cancer. Well, that's a woman's disease.
The men get breast cancer.
Shaft got breast cancer. And one of the things he admitted was like, well, this is something that's associated with women. And so he was embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
So men are willing to risk their health to portray and to have a certain image.
So are you saying that DEI has played into the image of the black male and how the black male is portrayed?
I think if DEI did its job properly, it would have freed up white people and black people.
Say more.
But the way that it's carried out, I don't think it did it effectively. So if DEI did its job, white people would have gotten used to black people in these roles. Men would have gotten used to women in these roles. The able-bodied would have gotten used to the disabled in certain roles.
So help me, is that connecting back into the D part of it, the diversity
The diversity
embracing?
and I think the equity and the inclusion part, like
So you're
all
saying
of it.
all of it.
Yeah, but the problem is DEI became it became virtue signaling.
Can what?
It became virtue signaling. basically saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm doing this DEI thing." It became all performative because the hard work people didn't want to do.
So then, are you saying then that it's okay to dismantle DEI because it was ineffective anyway?
No, fix it. And that's the problem, is they're not dismantling it because it was ineffective. They're dismantling it because of what it could have been.
Okay.
So the way to really get DEI to work is to do what it's really there for. Let's not make this performative anymore. Let's actually make the sacrifices and take the time that needs to be done.
Okay.
And I think for a lot of people, a lot of businesses are like, yeah, I don't see how that really helps us. It helps us to make it look like we're doing this, but I don't see how it helps us to actually do it.
What about those companies that have attested to the fact that they are better because of DEI?
I think those are the companies that, I go back to the example of IBM, because that's one that really sticks out to me.
Okay.
But I think there's something that was going on there, that people made a true commitment to it. That you had individuals who, in leadership, who didn't make a contribution but made a commitment. So I think about the issue of the chicken and the egg, the chicken and the pig want to start up a ham and eggs joint. One person makes a contribution, the other makes a lifetime commitment for that. And we have a lot of people who are making contributions and acting like it's a lifetime commitment. It's like, hey, remember when I did that 25 years ago?
Yeah.
No, it's a day in, day out process. And for people who are part of disadvantaged groups, whether you grew up poor, woman, black, disabled, a veteran, these are things you can never walk away from.
Okay.
But other people can. And a lot of times they choose to walk away from it. Okay. And DEI, if it was really going to do what it was supposed to do, would have required some work. It would have required people to retrain the way they understood the world in a way that's much more nuanced, that's much more inclusive. And it also would have forced them to confront some of their problems. Would have forced them to look in the mirror and say, hey, I've been going about this wrong. I need to make a change.
Okay.
So
can I read something? Ask you if you agree with it, and then probably the next question would be, how can we fix it? It's for those. It's comes out of Trump's stuff of dismantling DEI, right? I think it was Senate Bill 17.
Yeah, there have been a lot of stuff that's coming out.
It's a whole lot of stuff that comes out, right? But it says, while current research is still forthcoming, evidence we do have support the assumption that abolishing DEI programming will result in greater marginalization. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
If that's the case, then DEI is needed.
Yeah.
But with a stroke of a pen, for someone who said DEI, something in fact was an instrument of the worst discrimination ever, and that it was a waste of time, took a pen and just wiped it out.
Yeah.
Is there a means by which we can bring it back and to do it effectively?
I think, well, there are some companies that are still committed to it.
Right.
And I think these companies have probably sat down and rethought, like, okay, how are we going to do this and how are we going to do this properly? And the thing about DEI is just saying, hey, let's do this, and kind of maybe giving people money for some parties. Or people, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. So how do we? All I'm hearing is that it's something that was effective, and it's effective when done right.
Yes.
Because it's also been harmful, because those who, I think the word you used, it was something to do. It was hip at the time. It was a photo op that made you look good.
Yep.
But there was no authentic buy-in.
Yeah.
And no real commitment.
Yeah. And this has...
How do you change that?
You got to change the people. The people have to be willing to do it. I mean, it's
the greatest challenge in the world, right? You can't legislate folk to love one another.
Yeah.
The wonderful thing about regulation is in what DEI, affirmative action, did was it set some parameters. It put some rails up. There were some guidelines that were set.
Yeah.
And what made it effective was, and even though there might not have been a whole lot of commitment, there were rails there. There was a guide there, and there were potential consequences for not following through. There is value in that, right? Because somewhere, if we do it long enough, perhaps it can become real. But when we keep changing the game in the middle of the stream, it becomes problematic. What is it going to take if indeed it begins to marginalize us, right? I believe Trump is doing that already.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right? That's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, the military is the best example.
Yeah. Just what he's doing in government, come on, man. The brother didn't want to feed the poor. He tried to get a court order so that he did not have to give full payment, right?
Yeah.
And didn't care as long as it was going to benefit, as long as it benefits him and quote unquote. It's crazy because the challenge is it doesn't get better until we become one. And right now, that's not. It's about me and mine. How does it happen? It's happening, right? You're creating a deeper poverty class. I mean, I'm not saying middle class is getting poor, so that means your poor folk gonna get poor, but it's all poverty, right? Where it's not tiered at all. It's up here and down here. We only will get that will result in greater marginalization. What can we do then to bring it back and stop it, or is there an alternative so that somewhere the guardrails can be put back up, the guidance can be there, right? How do you eradicate hate? We like to talk about loving everybody. When you slap me in my face, after a while, I'm going to get tired. I love Jesus. I want to be like Jesus, but understand, I'm striving to be. I ain't there yet.
Well, right? I don't think Jesus wanted to get slapped in the face over and over again. I think Jesus would have been like, hey, look, there'd have been a point where you stop.
Okay.
Now, I don't think he would have gone out and shot the person, but he'd be like, hey, no, this needs to stop.
There's a limit.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you can't legislate someone to love you.
No.
So on some levels, there is a need, right? There's this whole conversation where you have the folk who want to dismantle, who do not see the value, who want to talk about merit based, and you earn what you get. But if you have a race, I mean, we operate out of who we are. We operate out of our culture, and if I've been so acculturated that I operate out of a racist viewpoint, when there are no guardrails, there is nothing, and I don't care how good you are, if I've got the power, I can always find a way to walk over you, walk around you, or walk through you.
So think about Section 5 of the VRA, where they said states with a history of discrimination, before you make a change, it has to be approved by the Department of Justice.
Okay.
When they got rid of pre-clearance, because the reason why they put it there is we don't trust you.
Okay.
They got rid of pre-clearance, and look at what happened. That these policies were put in place because we know how y'all get down.
Okay.
And, as James Baldwin would say, I don't believe what you say because I see what you do. And sometimes the way you get people to act right is there's a punishment associated with it. And I don't really think we'll be able to bring this stuff back until there's some type of major catastrophe. That the civil rights movement came about not necessarily because there was a change of heart, but because the U.S. was looking bad in front of the communists.
Okay.
That they were trying to talk about advancing democracy and all these things, and the communists could be like, look what you're doing to black folks. So on the global stage, the U.S. was constantly being embarrassed for how it was treating black folks. Plus, there was a fear that the U.S. would go to war with Russia, and they're like, we're going to need black support.
Okay. So again, that's it. Maybe I grab hold on some things, maybe a little bit too much. That's that respectability politics when I want you to be respectable. When I need to use you. When I don't need to use you, I think you getting a little beside yourself. Then I'm going to change the game, and what you're doing now is no longer going to be respectable for you.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about the Black Lives Matter movement is they push respectability politics to the side. They're like, come as you are. Rich, poor, gay, straight, do-rag, in a suit, whatever. Because your humanity comes first.
Okay. If there are no guardrails, again, and if I'm dealing with a culture who is steeped in, is it another word that I can use besides racist acts? Or is that the best one to use? I don't know.
Well, one more time, please.
I say, is there a better word to use besides racist, other than racist acts, or is that the best one?
I think America's convinced there's something wrong with you if you're poor, there's something wrong with you if you're a woman, there's something wrong with you if you're not white.
Something wrong if you're black.
So anybody who's not, there's something wrong with you.
Okay.
And we reinforce it over and over again. And what's going to really have to happen is a change in the way in which we teach, but it's also going to be a change in our homes.
Okay. You said two things there. The way we teach and a change in our homes. Can you address first the way we teach and who are we teaching and who are we teaching?
So one of the things that people got upset about was about including Black history in classes, and they were like, I was going to teach Black people to hate white people. No, I don't think that's the case. What it's going to do is teach Black people you're not the pitiful group everybody makes you out to be. began to teach white people, you're not the superior group that everybody makes you out to be. And what it does with one group, it says, oh, we're not as bad as we thought we were. And for the other group, oh, I guess we're not as good as we thought we were. You begin to see the nuance.
Yeah.
And
nuance, and maybe you can begin to see the humanity in the other.
Yes. And that's important. And this is why people have been talking about empathy as a sin. Because when you start to see somebody else's humanity, you begin to empathize with them.
Okay.
And if you need to demonize somebody, they're no longer human. And what we're seeing now, this hyper-partisanship, it's just constant demonization. And these people no longer become human. And if they no longer become human, I no longer need to respect them as a human being. I no longer need to give them the rights of a human being. And if you look historically in the way in which Americans have talked about non-Protestants, talked about blacks, talked about women, talked about various groups, they portray them as being something subhuman.
Okay. Is that also true of poor whites? And not how they see themselves, because part of me says that the racism in poor whites would be that the only thing that they have is their whiteness to lift them up. But if you are amongst the elite power structure, those poor whites, you'll engage them in respectability politics, right? You'll use them when you need to, and when you don't need them, you'll change the game on them because they ain't got enough money to help you.
Yeah. So
that DEI is something that really spans the spectrum. As Black folk, we understand how it impacts us greatly.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is that in America, here I am, I'm thinking probably talking like Hank Singleton, right? In America, we are the oppressed.
Yeah.
We have always been what it means to be oppressed, right? But that as we look at that DEI, it speaks across the spectrum. I think you started out with, it's never been just for blacks, it's been all inclusive for any who are marginalized.
Yeah.
Right? How can you get rid of something that affects so many people? And then how do you help the many who benefit or who can benefit from DEI programs? To somehow, if it can't be vertical, but at least there can be a linear kind of understanding that says, at least in a linear kind of way, we need to all come together.
Yeah.
For a common goal and good.
It makes me think about a colleague of mine, Brian Jones. He just wrote a book called The Southern Fault Line. And white man, grew up in Troy, Alabama. But he talks about the fact that his family comes from two different parts of the state of Alabama. One was from northern Alabama, miners, kind of, very working class. The other came from a lot of money, plantations, things like that. Mm-hmm. And he pointed out that you used to be able to get a multiracial coalition amongst the poor whites in the North and blacks to push back. And every once in a while, you would get that. There would be a tipping point, but like, okay, we can't do this anymore. But the planter class, the rich whites, from time to time win them over. And so they would talk about, well, it's the poor whites who are doing all the lynching. but it's the wealthy whites who allow them to do it. They're the ones who are fanning the flames that lead to this. And what he talks about is that it used to be, there would be a breaking point where like, okay, yeah, we can't buy into this racism stuff. We need to start working with black people. But he's like, but that went away. And again, they actively worked to separate these poor white, poor black coalitions. So if you think of the Republican Party in Texas after Reconstruction, you have poor whites and poor blacks working together. Mm-hmm. But they keep fanning the flames of racism, and so they push all the blacks out, and now they become the lily white Republicans. And so this is where you see the black and tan Republicans come about in Texas, and there was an opportunity there. There's also the argument that there was an opportunity for poor and indentured whites and black slaves in the colonial period to come together. Mm-hmm. And they had to find a way to demarcate these groups. That is something that just doesn't exist, that opportunity, because we're seeing now when union leaders mm-hmm. are going out and supporting someone like Trump, who is actively anti-union, we run into a problem. Now, unions have always had a problem when it comes to race. Blacks weren't allowed to join unions early on, but you found that where there are unions, mm-hmm. there's a better quality of life for working class blacks and whites. Okay. And it allows individuals to move out of being low income to middle income.
Okay. So my question, because I think the bandwidth is broad. I do believe, and when I look at Latinos, Mexican. I look at other marginalized communities. I'm black. Mm-hmm. I need to first be concerned about my community. Mm-hmm. Right? Somewhere, I don't think that enough of us have done that either. That we've not been concerned about our community collectively, mm-hmm. sincerely. But that bandwidth is so large.
Yeah.
When we talk about marginalized populations, and what you could do if you understand that we're all sitting in the same boat. Really, it's just yours is over there on that lake and mine is over here. But with that, it sounds like we need some sort of DEI in some form or fashion that seeks to protect one as we engage in hiring practices, as we look at equity mm-hmm. in wages, as we look at the other kinds of things that employment does for us, and that puts us on par.
Yeah.
Right? What happens if that's not replaced? And understanding that, look at Trump, we operate out of what we know and who we are. And oftentimes that's rooted in, that determines our emotions,
yeah,
our feelings, how we do things. Come on, man, the brother he gonna hire somebody because he get pissed. He gonna put higher taxes on another country. He don't care if it hurts us, if it hurts them, but he pissed. Mm-hmm. So I'm ready to get you.
Yeah.
What happens if we are not able to put something in place? What happens to our communities?
Well, one thing that people always point out is black people are resilient. Okay. And I think with the DEI programs, you're still going to see black students graduating from these schools because black people are resilient. But they're going to come away with more scars. And like people don't want to talk about the fact that in the 80s, they were throwing bleach balloons at black students. They don't want to talk about, that in Westlake, if they knew they were playing a black school, they would hang a bunch of black babies from a tree. This is not... One of the problems that when I look at American history that I get frustrated with is that so much of American identity is based upon who we hate, not who we love. That in order to get this white-black coalition, it's got to basically turn into we hate the rich or eat the rich situation. Not a situation of, hey, let's sit down, let's work this out. But so much of American identity is shaped upon who we're not as opposed to who we are.
Okay. Is that true for black identity as we look to what's, and again, I mean, somewhere that this is a great topic. It touches so many.
Yeah.
In so many areas. I'm concerned about my folk.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about everybody.
Yeah.
I have a love.
Yeah.
For my people.
Mm-hmm.
Those who look like me. Right? And I think rightly so.
Yeah.
Because if we don't for ourselves, no one else, history has proven, is going to love us in that way.
Black pride is a threat to white supremacy because black pride pushes back against a sense of inferiority. If you believe there's something wrong with not being white and that somebody is perfectly fine with being black,
I love it.
That's going to infuriate you. So if your response to black is beautiful is, we're saying now white people are ugly, you've told on yourself.
Wow, wow, wow.
Because one of the things about black pride is a story of what black people have done in spite of what's happened. And what ends up happening that I think a lot of people have a problem with is this is no longer a story about white people.
Okay.
Just like men have a hard time with women talking about something that's not about men, it's the same thing here. That if we think about black people and what black people want to achieve, I keep thinking a lot of things, even King made this clear, Baldwin made it clear, is we got our own institutions. We're not worried about you. We just want to be able to take care of our own.
Can we do that? I guess my mind was turning as you were talking. Do we really need DEI? And is there enough economic power within the black community that if we were to truly come together, that we could be all right apart from? Does not mean that we don't socialize with, does not mean that we don't engage with, but it does mean that we are dependent on ourselves and we don't need what you got to make us okay. Is that?
I don't think there is enough. Because one of the things that's been pointed out is historically, for black people to be middle class, it required 2 incomes. Whereas for a lot of white people, only required 1. The reliance on the federal government, that the black middle class is constantly in a precarious situation.
Meaning?
So that all it takes is one person to lose their job and it all falls apart. Now, white families are going through that.
But that's as a result of what's happening right now.
But also in terms of what we're seeing in terms of the corporate structures and it's the dwindling of the middle class. They're seeing that the things you used to be able to do on one income, you can't do anymore.
Right.
And people just struggle, and people are struggling just right now on two incomes.
I think, well, okay.
I don't think we have enough of the economic resources because so much of what we do is already within the system. I do think that there are some things that we can do at the local level to try to have a little bit more self-control. And that would require us setting up programs, volunteering time in schools, in certain communities to make sure everybody's taken care of.
And that's black folk doing this.
Yeah.
Within their own community.
Yeah.
Within our own community.
Yeah. But before I start bashing black people who aren't doing this, it's very difficult to tell somebody who's struggling just to make it on their own to go out and help somebody.
Yeah, it's real.
And
it's real.
I was talking to Kahari Brown. He's a sociologist at Wayne State. And he was talking about these movements for social justice. And like black churches will show up to the rally, but they lack the resources to be there for all the meetings and for the long haul. If you're struggling to keep the lights on, there's only so much you can do out there. And what's being asked of black people is to take on a whole lot of extra work to save the nation from itself and save your people. And I think a lot of black people are willing to do that. But you have to understand that some people, they can't.
Okay.
Now, some people just choose not to. But some people, you can't get water from a stone. They've given everything they have.
But is that not thin when we carry those who are brothers and sisters in those situations and circumstances?
I think we can do that. But in order to pull that off, we would need to rebuild black civic society.
Say more.
So people aren't joining organizations. They're not going to church. They're not engaging with each other. And part of the reason why is because we mentioned earlier respectability politics. It marginalized women, it marginalized poor people, it marginalized those who are homosexual. It marginalized a lot of different people. It's a lot of very authoritarian structures. And so people I don't want to deal with this.
That's within our own community? Is that what you
Yeah. And I think a lot of people just I don't want anything to do with this. And with the technology, increased incomes, people didn't necessarily have to lean on others like they used to.
Yeah. And I guess that's historically there was a time we could do that, right? Historically, there was a time when black communities could thrive.
Well, certain members of black communities. There were still examples of wealthy blacks exploiting poor blacks.
Okay, that's a whole different topic, right?
Yeah. But
that's a whole different
we will
topic.
romanticize it as everything was perfect, but no,
But no society is perfect, right?
Yeah.
But folk could thrive. Yes, we could have done better.
Yeah.
And in time, hopefully, we could have seen it. Hopefully, we will see it, right?
Yeah.
And I guess, where's the hope? We're in 2025. I believe that midterms is going to maybe turn some things around, but I think there's been so much damage already. It's going to be hard to come out of this, right?
Oh, this is going to be probably a multi-generational effort to dig out, because the relationship with the relationship with on the global scale, the damage that's been done internally is major. But this ain't the first time. I mean, the reason why I brought up Reagan is this is very much just like the Reagan years, where people kind of like get rich or die trying.
Okay. So I'm going to ask. I look at it, and on some levels, I also believe that if you haven't had a whole lot, that you might feel a little bit of it when you go to the grocery stores, but a lot of it is not going to have the impact as it will on others. Right?
Yeah.
It depends on where you sit in the spectrum, right?
Yeah,
And somewhere, depending on where we sit in the spectrum, some are okay, and we can ride through this. Others are feeling the pain, but those who are okay, as you said earlier, while they're okay taking care of themselves. They don't have they don't have enough of the resources to reach back and give. And the impact of dismantling DEI, from what I've been hearing in this conversation, will have its effect and its impact.
It will. It will. Dismantling DEI will allow sexism, ableism, racism, homophobia to kind of go unchecked.
Yeah. No guardrails, no guides, and no consequences.
DEI, programs like DEI, programs like affirmative action, programs like a speed limit. People can do right, but sometimes they'll choose not to. And so we need to set things up to stop them when they choose not to.
Okay. So then, in this time that we're in, and again, I'm believing that a change will come, and it's going to have its messiness, because some folk are not going to want to go.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be pretty.
No.
We're already in deep. Where is the hope? Is there any hope?
I'm a pessimist, but I do think there is hope.
Okay.
It is hard to find sometimes. It is very dark, but there is light. And to achieve that, one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to start working with each other more.
We. Who's the we?
Just black people, white people, black and white people.
Across the board, generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things...
Humanity has to engage humanity.
Yeah, so one of the things is, instead of just saying hi to your neighbor and not knowing the name, say, hey, how you doing? My name is such and such. What do you do? Create some type of community around you. And these times are really tight, and people are lonely. There is a loneliness epidemic. And this is why you're seeing a lot of the craziness and the violence, and you're seeing these people kind of make statements that make no sense whatsoever. They're lonely. And because they're lonely, they're mad, they're scared, they have all this anxiety, and so they express it in anger. We gotta let people know they're not lonely.
No, they're not alone.
Yeah. And the way you let somebody know they're not alone is you respect their humanity. So say hi to your neighbor and just, what's your name? Shake your neighbor's hand. And get to actually know your neighbor. and then talk to some other people. When you go to get your coffee, the person serving you, oh, what's your name? Oh, how you doing? My name is, and develop a relationship. And develop a relationship that is not just transactional. Because right now, we're focused on transactional relationships.
Okay. So what am I hearing? What I think I'm hearing is that our way out is through relationships.
Yeah. And
Scripture, the greatest two commandments: love God with all your heart, mind, soul. Love your neighbor
yeah.
as you love yourself. Who is my neighbor? It's not just the person that I live next to. It's all those with whom I come in contact with.
And if DEI was able to do what it's supposed to do, we'd be living that commandment.
So, because again, since DEI has not done it effectively, and in order to get as far as it did, it needed to have guardrails,
Yeah.
guides, and consequences. So that meant that it was never really authentic.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, I think, is that we need to build authentic relationships that breeds love for humanity.
Yes.
It's not that we don't not recognize the color of our skins.
Yeah.
I'm not a mistake.
Yep.
I'm black, I'm beautiful, and I am made in the image of God, and I dare you to tell me something different.
Yep.
Okay? And I deserve some things. But to understand, we all do.
Yeah.
Right? So how do we recognize, respect, and love the humanity of the other, whoever that might be, whatever form that takes, whatever race, color, ethnicity, age,
Yep.
gender, orientation. How do we love the humanity in all of us that would breed the kind of society that would engage equitably in the midst of our diversity, and the kind of relationships that breeds inclusiveness, that says, you are welcomed in this place. You belong here with us.
Love requires a lot of work, and it gives great rewards. Hate doesn't really require that much, but you get nothing out of it.
Man, that's a tall order, though. Do you know that?
Yeah.
That's a tall order.
It requires a lot of work. It requires people to confront who they are and get rid of any false image they have of themselves and commit themselves to being something new.
Do you know how hard it is if I think I'm all that in bag of chips? Many of those are the ones who claim to love God most.
Yeah.
And will tell you God loves them better than he loves you because they live in a better life than you are.
Oh.
And that unawareingly sometimes breeds contempt for the other and not love.
One of the most dangerous people I've ever met are those who talk about how much they're saved.
Okay. You got some work to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got some work to do. You said a mouthful. I was going to ask for your closing words, but I think you've given them. How do we develop relationships? And I'm going to say, how do we begin developing those relationships at home amongst ourselves? And as we learn to love ourselves, I'm going to say because we are both black, our experiences have been oftentimes similar in many ways, but sometimes so very different. But somewhere through our histories, they've met from time to time. When I can't love you, I don't care what you are, where you come from. I cannot authentically love myself because we are each other.
Yep.
And when we can do that well, then go out into Samaria and the other parts of the world. But let's start at home first. I think you put it beautifully. I think that's what is it? I think that's the wrap. I think that's the wrap, right? Simply say, man, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
You come back, and I'm gonna look for you to come back again.
All right.
And again, and I watch the news, man. So the next time, I see where, I don't know if it's KEN, that's mostly what I watch is KENS.
Yeah.
So the next time I'm flipping and I see you and I hear I'm gonna pick up the phone, say, hey man, we need to talk.
All right.
I need you on the podcast. So is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
All right, Doc. I appreciate having you here. And thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
For pouring into us and enlightening us. And for you, our viewers, our listeners, I'm going to say for those of you who are part of the God-curious community, I pray that something has been said on this evening that has impacted you, that hopefully there's a better understanding of DEI and all that has been talked about over the past year in terms of seeking to dismantle it. All that continues to be a part of conversation, that there's a better understanding of it, what's happening, how it impacts us as an African American community, but how it impacts all of us who are part of marginalized community. That means that we are not a part of the elite power structure, the white male elite who seek to be in power and to run the country. As my friend and brother, Dr. Eric McDaniel has said, there's hope. Let's be pessimistic and let's build those relationships so that DEI will look like it was nothing to begin with anyway, but that the relationships and the community will be real, it will be authentic, the love will be so strong that, many DEI, we got this, because we got each other. Pray that you've been helped. I'm going to reiterate, I won't say reiterate because I meant to do it at the very beginning, but want to encourage you, if you've enjoyed this podcast, if you've enjoyed this episode, or any of our podcast episode, I'm going to ask you, please like, share, subscribe. And can I change that order right now? Please subscribe, like, and share. Again, if you like our podcast, if you like the words of Dr. Eric McDaniel, please subscribe, like, and share. Please join us on the next podcast episode. I know you're going to just be thrilled. And until then, I hope that you will allow your mind to be challenged, that you moved outside of the box and conventional thinking, that you will begin to ask questions like, what's up with that? Until next time, be blessed.